over the roughly 3 years that I've been uploading videos, I have at various times touched upon the topic of the Anunnaki, of Enlil and Enki, and events that took place so long ago, which I do believe were the genesis of our civilization, and by all information provided through research, perhaps the parents of mankind, of these Anunnaki being responsible for the genetic upgrade that resulted in modern man. And so I believe I've found a source of information that I wholeheartedly resonate with, intuitively resonate with the information that I've been exposed to via this author. His name is William Henry. And I'm going to read a bit from this book by William Henry. It's called Ark of the Christos. I don't know how long I'll get into it, but I'll leave the information for the book should anyone be interested in researching this information. And I'm going to read from chapter 1, from the end of heaven. According to Sumerian and Babylonian myth, our reality arises from the aftermath of an incredible cosmic nightmare. Their detailed narrative tells of the conquest and slaughter of a great mother goddess planet by Planet X, a mysterious roaming planet that swings to the far side of our solar system and is expected to return to our part of the solar system soon. Enormous uncertainty accompanies its advent. The Sumerians, pronounced Shumerians, are a virtually unknown people to most. Their origins are uncertain to scholars. If Planet X is headed this way, however, their stories of their gods and recollections of humanity's beginnings contain essential guidance for our times. 5,000 years ago, Sumerian astronomers made baked clay tablets and crystal cylinder seals, researchers say, depict our solar system. They show 11 globes encircling a large rayed star, assumed to represent the sun. Modern astronomy only recognizes 9 planets in the solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. It was not until 1781 that modern astronomy discovered Uranus, 1846 Neptune, and 1930 Pluto. If we include the moon as a planet, as the Sumerians appear to have done, then we have a total of 10 planets orbiting the sun today. This leaves one planet, a planet much larger than Earth, but smaller than Jupiter and Saturn, that the Sumerians depicted between Mars and Jupiter. Whoever inspired the Sumerians to craft these seals appears also to have inspired the priestly poets who Sumerian scholar Zechariah Sitchin maintains numbered the planets in our solar system from the outside in, as if they approach the Earth from outside our solar system. And I might add that the 12th planet by writer Zechariah Sitchin, I believe I have said in the past, and it is my contention, that there was life before I read the 12th planet by Zechariah Sitchin and life after. And the book was recommended to me quite by chance a long time ago, probably like about 20 years ago. And yes, I read that book, and it completely changed my view of things. I highly recommend it, The 12th Planet by Zechariah Sitchin. So, but anyway, the planets, according to Sumerian scholar Zechariah Sitchin, were numbered in our solar system from the outside in, as if they approached Earth from outside our solar system. No names are given on the Sumerian cylinder seals for the bodies depicted on them. This left it to the poets or their muses to fill in the blanks. Sitchin, who began publishing his poetic interpretations of these tales in 1976 in his Earth Chronicles series of 5 books, revolutionized the study of the Enigma, the Babylonian Genesis, and the Hebrew Genesis by bringing forth a creation tale whose implications literally could transform the human race. Yes, it transformed this human. His controversial work constitutes a potential major breakthrough in our understanding of fundamental questions that have always perplexed humankind. Who are we? How did we get here? What are we doing here? How do we return home? In these olden texts, we learn the extraplanet located between Mars and Jupiter is called Tiamat, a goddess who has 2 faces. In the patriarchal tradition, she is called the monster and the serpent dragon of chaos, while in the older matriarchal tradition, she is called the maiden of life and is described in glowing terms as a scintillating prize to behold, the primordial sea goddess that would face an incredible Atlantis-like fate. The Anew tells how Armageddon struck this goddess. She was violently split into pieces. One half of Tiamat was demolished and became the asteroid belt, the hammered bracelet, or planetary debris field circling Mars and Jupiter. The other half became Earth. In other words, as Sitchin says, Earth is Tiamat reincarnated. The Torah also refers to this destruction, essentially your Old Testament in your Bible, alluding to planet X, as the Sumerians did, as the Lord. So the heavens bespeak the glory of the Lord. The hammered bracelet proclaims his handiwork. Very alluringly, the Torah adds, from the end of heaven he emanates. The hammering of this goddess is attributed to the first blacksmith or alchemist who hammered out, or rather cast, the world. His name was Aya, E.A. Aya, Enki. Well, perhaps not right now, but Aya, the Lord of wisdom and of mining or metallurgy. In the Babylonian retelling of the story, Aya's son Marduk, another name for planet X, usurped his father's authority and took credit for the slaying of this dragon. The original war in heaven later described in the book of Revelation. After the confrontation, says Sitchin, planet X remained in our solar system on a vast elliptical orbit of 3,600 years, making it too dim to see. It is a 12th planet in our solar system, the 10th from the sun. Hence, it is called planet X, the royal numeral for 10. Aya is a central figure in our investigation. Interestingly, Aya was actually a name for the goddess before it was used as a name for the male god. Aya's original association with the goddess is reflected in its presence in East, Easter, and Earth, all words associated with the divine feminine. The baked clay tablets left by the Sumerians and interpreted by Sitchin tell us that after the cataclysm that formed the earth, Aya led a group of interplanetary beings from planet X who descended on the wounded dragon to seed new civilization. Sitchin estimates this occurred some 450,000 years ago. The Sumerians called Ea and the first representatives of planet X who descended on Earth the Anunnaki, Anunnaki, are the sons of Anew, or Anna, meaning the people of the god of light. The Anna race was known by various names. In Greece, the Anodati, in Celtic lore, the Tuatha Dedanan. In the Semitic scriptures, Torah, your Talmud, Old Testament, the apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, they are called the Nephilim, giants, the sons of God, or the Watchers. They are described as coming and going from the stars in fiery, flying vehicles. They have weapons of mass destruction, which they used on one another. They wear high-tech clothing with attachments symbolized as wings, horns, and even fish scales. Each of these symbols indicated divine power and royal blood. The Bible also calls them the Els, an ancient word that is found in many other languages, including the Sumerian El, brightness, shining, Akkadian Ilu, radiant one, Babylonian Elu, the shining one, Old Welsh Elu, a shining being, and the English elf, shining being. I will refer to them as the shining ones. That's William Henry saying that. But interestingly, also, you must realize that all of the angels, the archangels, Gabriel, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Raziel, they all have this suffix El, which is denoting of the shining ones, the God ones, which is the angels. Sitchin maintains the shining ones came to Earth in search of gold to mend an atmospheric crisis on planet X. Now, this is where it's getting interesting, dear viewer, because this information that follows is what resonates with me, because like so many other myths, stories, information that it has been handed down to us and presented to us in a very literal fashion, this tale of the Anunnaki has symbolic meanings that resonate highly with me. And in particular, this message is for this time where we're at in this particular space-time nexus of this ascension on this planet. So pay attention to this part if you stayed along with this video thus far. Sitchin maintains the shining ones came to Earth in search of gold to mend an atmospheric crisis on planet X. At first, he says, Aya attempted to mine the gold out of the waters of the Earth. When the result was not satisfactory, his half-brother Enlil came to Earth, assumed command, and moved the operations to Africa, where the gold was plentiful, and still is. When the labor became too intense for these ancient astronauts, Aya genetically altered the proto-humans then inhabiting the planet, creating humanity as a slave race. The interchange of the biblical term El and the Sumerian shining ones illuminates much of previously muddled myth and scripture, particularly the four quintessential quotations from the book of Genesis. In chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, the shining ones created the heavens and the earth. Verse 26, the shining ones said, let us make man in our image, in the likeness of ourselves. And then chapter 2, verse 8, Yahweh, the leader of the shining ones, Enlil, planted a garden in the east. Chapter 5, verse 24, Enoch walked with the shining ones. Then he disappeared because the shining ones took him away. From Sumerian records, Sitchin surmises that sometime after the arrival of Aya, Enki, and his partner, the goddess, Ninhursag, began to experiment with the wild Homo erectus, the Neanderthal-like development of humans at that time. They found inhabiting the delta regions of Africa. These experiments led to the cultivation of a Lulu, or mixed one, a hybrid, who became a primitive worker and culminated sometime around 300,000 BC with the prototype the Sumerians called Adapa, the model man, and the Hebrews called Adam. There is little doubt Aya, and Ninhursag intended their initial creation, called Lulu, meaning mixed one, to perform the hard labor required to benefit their home planet. However, at some point, they appear to have changed their mind about using spiritual enslavement as a means to solve Planet X's atmospheric problem. In a drastic change of heart, they abruptly went to the other extreme. Sitchin recounts that Aya and Ninhursag were not content to allow their creation to remain slaves. They set a course to dig their creation out of spiritual bondage by creating an advanced being through genetics research, forming them in a closer likeness that more closely resembled the shining ones. Using their own genetic material, Aya and Ninhursag came up with a new perfect model of earthling called Adapa. In time, Adapa was ordained as a high priest of Eridu. He was known to have acquired wisdom equal to his father, for Aya had perfected for him wide understanding, disclosing all the designs of the earth. Wisdom he had given to him. We are told Adapa daily did attend the sanctuary of Eridu. He further was given the mission to spread his knowledge among mankind. According to Sumerian legend, it was at this temple at Eridu that Aya, the master of the secrets of all scientific knowledge, stored the maze, MEs. These are the tablets of destinies, crystal-like objects, sometimes worn as ornaments, or this is the emerald tablet of Thoth, Jehuti. These are the maze, the tablets of destiny, of knowledge. Anyway, sometimes worn as ornaments on the body of the gods, on which knowledge, including medicine, astronomy, astrology, and temple building were contained. Keep in mind, though, the real temple is your body, your human body. This is where all the high-tech technology has been designed within us. Adapa was nicknamed Nunme, or he who can decipher the maze. Enlil, called the Prince of Earth, whose command made the heavens tremble, is a militaristic, managerial, hands-on, and totally opposite of Aya, the dreamer. So, real quick, let me interject this. See, this is starting to get into the territory of symbolism, and I've always I've long suspected and then kind of kept it to myself and haven't made many videos on it, but Enlil and Enki are actually can be, parts of ourselves, viewed as our Enlil as the left brain, dominating ego brain, wants to control and organize everything. And then the right side of the brain, the God mind, as I call it, is Enki, the dreamer. So more of this dichotomy, but we're getting more into the revelation of the symbolism according to author William Henry. So, and that's why I'm sharing this, is because I've made videos in the past where I kind of got in between some of this drama with Ishmael Perez, and him promoting Enlil, and then, coming along and talking about Elena Denon, and she's already talked about Enki and Aya she's in contact with. And so and that's why I'm kind of sharing this information, because I wanted to, follow up somewhat and provide a more elevated perspective on this, at least according to how I resonate with this knowledge. So anyway, Enlil, called the Prince of the Earth, whose command made the heavens tremble, is militaristic, managerial, hands-on, and totally opposite of Aya, the dreamer. He was furious at Aya for creating this slave race, which he, Enlil, turned into sex objects. He was threatened by the appearance of Adapa. There is the interesting statement in the Mayan Popol Vuh, which reflects Enlil's thoughts on the matter of his slaves who became perfect. It is not well that our creatures should know all. Must they perchance be the equals of ourselves, their makers, who can see far, who know all and see all? Must they also be gods? One ancient name for these beings is the Irish She. It's spelled Sidhe, the She people. They are considered to be direct descendants or reincarnations of the Shining Ones. The She people are described as a race of majestic appearance and marvelous beauty in form, human, yet nature and divine in nature. They are divided into two classes: those which are shining and those which are opalescent and seem lit up by a light within themselves. The word She informs us of the nature of the forbidden teachings that Aya desired to teach. She appears to be related to the Latin sedes and the Sanskrit sida, both words meaning power. So now pay attention. This is where we're getting into this, what all this is about. The Sanskrit term siddhis, as I always pronounce them, shida, carries the meanings attainment, accomplishment, or perfection. In the Hindu literature, this term is used to denote the abilities which self-realized or spiritually perfected individuals possess and use unselfishly. Scholars who have followed the missing years of Jesus have shown that he received training in India from Hindu and Buddhist masters. They taught him yogic abilities called the Ashtasiddhi. These 8 powers are Animan, the ability to make oneself infinitely small in an instant; Mahiman, the power to grow infinitely large at will; Lagiman, or levitation, defying the law of gravity; Prapti, the power to touch any object in any distance, such as scooping up a handful of dust on Mars; Prakamaya, the ability to dive into the solid ground and move about as if it were air or water; and Vashdeva, total control over the elements; Ishtritva, the ability to create or destroy matter; and Kamavasaya Itva, instant materialization of wishes, manifestation. Because of Aya's genetic tinkering and his gift of the secret of the stars, Earth humanity could be raised to the level of intellectual development of the gods. The possibility that his creation could have even exceeded his other terrestrial overseers is evidenced by the statement of Jesus. He who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these will he do, because I go to the Father. Because of his desire to teach these powerful abilities to humanity, DUR.AN.KI was labeled as the serpent. This knowledge and the abilities it represents is the true reason Enlil, who became Yahweh in the Hebrew tradition, was so enraged and threatened, the God of the Old Testament. By this interpretation, Aya was creating or activating a super race, remembered by the Essenes as children of light, and by other traditions in similar terms. The magic wand-like elegance of this hypothesis has been used to explain the lack of skeletal evidence between Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, a creature that in the twinkling of an eye or the wave of a wand developed a huge brain and vastly improved faculties. There is no missing link. Evolution was sped up by our friendly neighborhood bioengineers, the Anunnaki. There was a quantum leap orchestrated by colonizers from planet X, Nibiru, the 10th planet, who became the gods and goddesses of ancient myth and scripture. It is unknown if they performed this alteration with the blessings of the greater God, meaning source, because even though we're talking about these fifth dimensional, higher dimensional, more advanced, technologically advanced beings, they're not the gods as we understand as source of all creation. You can see that they're advanced technologically, but not perhaps so morally advanced as what we would expect from a true shining one. But anyway, throughout my more than 10 years of study, and this is William Henry, the author of the book I'm reading from, the Ark of the Christos, he says, throughout my more than 10 years of study of what may be regarded as the Sitchin hypothesis, talking about Zechariah Sitchins, I have pondered several questions concerning the Shining One's quest for gold. Pay attention, please. And their creation of humanity as a slave race in order to acquire this element. This is where I'm talking about, where this completely opens up all of this ancient astronaut drama, baby mama drama. First, why travel all the way to Earth for an element that is reputed to be plentiful in the asteroids of space? Secondly, why travel all this way only for gold? Why not many of the Earth's other abundant resources, water, for example? Thirdly, instead of doing some risky genetic engineering and combining their own DNA with that of the proto-humans already inhabiting the Earth, why did the Shining Ones not simply build machines or robots to do the work? If they were technologically able to build spaceships, why not robots too? Automatons, androids. Economically speaking, a self-generating clone, such as the first humans, is a cheaper and more efficient solution than mechanical robots. However, this cost is offset by the risk involved in creating a creature with powers equal to or even surpassing their own, which Sitchin asserts was one of Enlil's objections to his half-brother's genetic tinkering. The key to this story, as far as this investigation is concerned, is Aya's ability as an alchemist. Accepting the theory that Aya and the other Shining Ones of Planet X were real-life intelligences or beings from a technologically, though not necessarily morally advanced civilization, I have questioned why a metallurgist and a genesmith of Aya's reputed mastery, of Enki's reputed mastery, would need to mine gold at all. As the father of alchemy, he surely had the ability to manufacture gold from base metals. In fact, so attaches he to the art of alchemy that this art may be thought of as the mystery religion of Aya. So I'm going to share the screen on this part because there's some relevant symbolism that will behoove you, the viewer, to be able to, if anyone's following along. I don't know how long it's been. Anyway, I'm going to proceed as if the whole world is watching. Please hit the subscribe button. All righty. So here we go. My approach to this story. All right. My approach to the story is realizing that, like the Egyptians, Sumerians were accomplished exponents of the pun. or double entendre, if you will, in literature, that gave several meanings by several meanings by the use of one economical phrase or symbol. They probably learned this from Aya or Enki. Gold, for example, symbolized by the symbol here, which is also the symbol for Earth in astrology, I believe. But gold, for example, symbolized by the symbol, is an alchemical pun or symbol for soul, and for soul, the sun. Soul is an alchemical term for the essence of life, hidden in gold. This essence is called the tinctura rubea, red tincture, red like the alchemical sun and planet X. This sun substance drips from the sun and produces lemons, oranges, wine, and in the mineral kingdom, gold. In humans, it is the shining or lucent body and is akin to the Holy Spirit. Accordingly, it is the prima material, the gold of which we are made, and the gold Aya was likely in search of. Okay? This is what inspired me to share this information. This may explain why some peoples believe that the god's flesh was made of gold, as did the ancient Egyptians, who believed their pharaohs' bodies were made of gold. Another key to deciphering the alchemical meaning of Aya's mining activity is provided when we remember that the water, the element from which Aya first attempted to mine gold, is often used as a metaphor for mother and souls. The ancients, particularly the Hermetic magicians, claimed that the maternal waters in combination with the maternal earth created souls. Tiamat's oceans were described as a womb full of the fluid of creation. If symbolically water represents souls as the fluid of creation and gold represents soul, Tiamat's and earth seas were full of souls. Another candidate for the fluid of creation is blood, DNA. A third possibility is soul, the essence of life. In this light, when planet X, Nibiru, or Tiamat, split or divided the stone of Tiamat in two, she released an ocean of souls, blood, or cosmic essence into the cosmos. This is verified in the Greek version of Tiamat's name, Demeter, the cutting or dividing of a circle in two, or dia, split, mater, mother, matter. In addition to An, the Sumerians called planet X Nibiru, planet of the crossing. The modern appellation for this planet X is therefore quite synchronistic. The diagonal cross with arms of equal length is a very old sign. Compare its association with division, with its use as a sign of multiplication from the beginning of the 17th century, the Enlightenment, and the law of the polarity of meanings of elementary glyphs become evidence. As an Egyptian hieroglyph, it meant divide and break into parts, as was seen on the chest of Osiris, the savior god, who was cut into 14 pieces. This sign has a wide spectrum of meanings, from confrontation, annulment, and opposing powers to unknown and unfamiliar. Here are a number of examples of the ways in which X is used: a crossbreed between different species or races in botany and biology, takes in chess, cannot continue, ground emergency code, unknown mathematics, and so different versions or different meanings of the symbol X. As we will see, the diagonal cross is also used as a symbol for Christ, whose body is symbolized by bread in the Eucharist ceremony and is broken in half. Each of these meanings, particularly the last, is relevant to the story of Tiamat and Planet X, which was associated with the coming or advent of the Lord. My premise is that the beings from Planet X are interested in saving souls. One of Aya's original titles, Enki's, was House Waters, allowing for the interchange of water and souls renders Aya as Lord of the souls. Substituting soul for gold, as do alchemists, it is conceivable that the alleged planetary crisis Planet X was facing was not material but spiritual. That's it. Gold making or acquisition aside, the quest of the alchemist is the quest to transmute their soul into a higher form, apotheosis, or God making. Simply, I ask, what if the decaying atmosphere of Planet X that Aya was attempting to repair with gold was actually a soul atmosphere in decay? Suppose Planet X was experiencing a soul crisis and Aya came to Earth in search of souls to replenish his home world. So I'm going to hold up there because I think that really encapsulates what prompted me to share this information, and sort of circle back around and provide resolution, provide closure to a lot of this information. Because I mean, I still see some of the, I'm not going to mention any more names, but some of the YouTube personalities that I follow, there's still a divide with all of this. Enki, Enlil, Aya, and this is still being talked about. And see, that's great. And perhaps these people that are talking about it, they have, I know Elena Danaan she has, talked about, she's in personal contact with Aya, Enki, who I guess he's going by Enki now. But I'm gonna say this about the whole. I mean, I literally believe ultimately, as far as my level of understanding and development, I have to look at it symbolically. Like Enki or Enlil to me represents the left brain, the ego dominating the militaristic sort of side, the dividing, analytical side of my being, and Enki, the more dreamer, God mind, the more artistic, creative. And, ultimately this must be united and transcended. And that's how I take all this information. And ultimately, the people that are talking about this information, perhaps, they have different experiences, like face to face. I know Elena Danaan talks about being, face to face and having, all this interaction with Aya and whatnot. And so I can't comment on that. I don't know. I think it's fascinating. I read information, and I still watch Ishmael Perez videos, and Billy Carson he's another proponent for Enki. And, in fact, Billy Carson, shared a very good version of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Anyway, it's all fascinating. But for me, this information that I just shared from this book ultimately is what this is all about. A spiritual degradation, the fact that the Anunnaki came to this planet, and perhaps it wasn't so much a physical gold that was necessary to repair their planet. It was, a more symbolic, spiritual, essence that was being looked for. And William Henry goes on to share many more fascinating nuances of that theory, about the planets, because, there's also information about the beings that were on Tiamat and Mars and other parts of the solar system being obliterated by these, planets exploding, and then some of the wars that took place among the Anunnaki. And so if you understand that your soul, your essence, your personality has, this is not its first rodeo. And in fact, and William Henry goes on to talk about in that book, Ark of Christos, that some of the mission of coming here to this planet was to find the souls that they were, in communion with and interaction with on those other planets. And, so it's, ultimately it's kind of like a cosmic soap opera, a Anunnaki baby mama drama, if you will. And it's fascinating, but it's really nothing to give your power away to, is what I'm getting at least for my estimation. But it is, as Adapa, following the example of Adapa, which is Adam, the first, human, that is the essence that we must ascend to, or you won't make the cut, because the humans that are animalistic and still following the lower nature, whatnot, that is not the example that if as Adapa, the one who was such a adept at divine knowledge and being an interpreter of the maze, the crystal tablets, the emerald tablets of knowledge. And that is fascinating to me as an example how I choose to live my life, which, prior to what I view as my ascension, as far as my Kundalini activation, I was not living in that way. I was living like everybody else at that time, and probably the majority of people at that time. I'm not trying to judge people, but if you're still kind of caught up in that path, I can tell you it led me up to the gates of hell. And if it wasn't for divine intervention, and I can share all kinds of, information about that time of my life, to include visitations of actual physical craft and everything that involved that. It was a very intense, spiritually transforming time for myself, but I knew that there was higher beings than what I was surrounded with. And I was being prompted and pulsed by many different avenues of information and inspiration, if you will. And, and I went through a miraculous conversion, and, and that's what I keep in front of me, is ever days of assimilating more knowledge and growing in the light. And that is what the On Bond the New Earth ashram is all about, is growing in the light and sharing information. So please hit the subscribe button and leave this video a thumbs up, as it indicates to the algorithm that we are children of light and that our destiny is the new earth of the golden age timeline. Namaste. Namaskaram.